to get a drink, help yourself. Lou's Sweet Treats back there at the food truck. Ice cream is available. That is provided courtesy of T-Baytel. And just give a round of applause for their sponsorship this Pride Month. So, good, is it afternoon yet? Is it afternoon? Okay. Good afternoon and happy Pride. My name is Douglas Judson. My pronouns are he, him, and I am here with my co-chair, Peter Howie. We are two of the organizers of Pride Month 2023. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered today in Treaty 3 territory, which is the traditional land of the Anishinaabe in which the Métis people share history. We thank the many Indigenous communities of this region for caring for these territories and sharing them with us in peace. To kick things off, I'd like to welcome His Worship, Mayor Andrew Halakas, to share some words in celebration of Pride.
Thanks, Doug and Peter. First of all, welcome to Fort Frances. If you came over with us from the Falls, it's so wonderful to have our brothers and sisters from the United States celebrating Pride with us. And a shout out to all of you for coming today. We have a very eclectic group, and it's such a pleasure to see you here. I wanted to add one thing to Doug's territorial announcement about the lands that we're on. This is the 100th, this year is the 150th anniversary of the signing of Treaty 3. And so watch for some celebrations throughout the summer over that. It's a really big deal. So, I want to start off by simply saying how pleased I am that the Council of the Town of Fort Frances unanimously proclaimed the month of June to be Pride Month. And I'm even more pleased that I'm able to take part in this unique Pride March, the only Pride March that I know of that crosses the international border. I was fortunate to be present at Fort Frances High School on May 31st as the students of Fort High raised the pride flag there to kick off Pride Month. And what's so important about that is one of the ways to ensure that the rights of marginalized groups of people, such as trans and gender diverse people, is to educate our youth. One of the ways I want to say that the students of Fort Frances High School, they stood tall as they showed leadership and support of diversity, inclusion, equality, equity, and dignity for all at their school, just as everyone here today is also showing their support for these pillars that are essential to any just and fair society. Thanks to Borderland Pride, we were able to raise the newer version, the one that looks like this, of the pride flag at the Civic Center. And for anyone not familiar with this flag, it has the triangle at the base of it representing the trans community. This is especially appropriate and poignant to me as it reminds me of Diana Boileau, her struggles and her examples as a pioneer trans person who set an example for other marginalized people. I might add that there is a plaque near La Vérendrye Hospital placed there by Ontario Heritage commemorating Diana. I thank Doug and Borderland Pride for their work in getting this recognition for Diana and Dr. Chalice. But there is more work to be done. As a society, we need to do more to ensure that the vulnerable and the marginalized among us are treated fairly and with respect. We need to ensure that they feel safe and, in fact, are safe. Some of that work we are doing together today. So give yourself a round of applause. Today, we are showing our community that we are proud of Pride, that we welcome and support members of the 2SLGBTQIA+ community and their families, that we affirm and celebrate the diversity of sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression, and that we take pride in having members of the 2SL LGBTQIA+ as part of our community. I would like to thank everyone who marched and everyone who came out today for their support of Pride. You are helping to make our community a welcoming and safe place for all. And special thanks to Borderland Pride for organizing Pride Month and for all their efforts in working towards making this community a better place to live for everyone. Thank you.
So thank you, Mayor Halikas, for those very important remarks today and for affirming the support of our municipal leadership for pride and inclusion. Today, it is wonderful to gather once again as a community to walk together in solidarity in support of 2S LGBTQIA+ community members and our values of equity, diversity, and inclusion of sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. As many of you will know, we have been unable to hold a cross-border Pride March for several years due to the pandemic. But as we continue our work to recognize the dignity and value of all members of our community and to build figurative bridges between members of our community, today we are again able to cross a literal bridge too, in celebration of that unity of purpose and to recognize that our sense of pride knows no borders. No borders of nationality, of gender, of faith, of color, of ability. But if those most basic human values know no border, the sad reality is that increasingly, the hate campaign targeting those values knows no shame and no limits. As we walk together today, there are around us forces of evil on the march too, emboldened by unscrupulous cable TV hosts, felonious ex-presidents, and power-hungry Florida governors. People whose polling data shows them that you, queer and trans people and your families, are a convenient political target for their ambition. Dozens of US state houses are adopting legislation intended to erase, if not to exterminate, trans people and the drag community from public life. Their anti-trans rhetoric in particular is going to cost people their lives and ruin lives. They know that and they don't care. Many of these anti-trans bills target children, supportive educators, and parents. And incidents of anti-2S LGBTQIA+ violence and violence targeting pride events, drag story events, and members of our community are also at unprecedented highs, spurred on by online misinformation and conspiracy theories. The dog whistle support from some corners of the Canadian conservative movement in particular are deeply troubling and foretell the difficulties we may face ahead. I can tell you that in our legal practice, we are busy fighting for members of the queer and trans community who have been defamed as pedophiles on the internet and using our experience with homophobia in our own backyard at Emo Town Council to support pride organizations confronting bigotry from governments and school boards across Ontario. Not far away from where we stand, this week in Neebing, elsewhere in the Northwest, a parent posted online about how seeing a pride flag at their local municipal office might have saved their child, who tragically had taken their own life some years earlier. These affirmations matter, and they save lives by showing visible symbols of safety and welcome for people in their most vulnerable moment. And yet, still today, 3 years after our protest in Emo and our ongoing human rights claim, many communities of the district continue to have some elected leaders that would apparently prefer to see children suffer than to show them that their community leaders care about them. They would prefer to spend your taxpayer dollars defending their bigotry rather than to do the most basic thing to support you and your children and your families. These people live here. And so that's why when we have leaders like Mayor Halikas and Mayor Drobuk come out and speak with support, it is so important because it sends a message that this is the type of leadership we ought to expect, and they are setting that standard. The recent resurgence of this hate in Canada is not a coincidence. It is directly influenced by the rise in dangerous, far-right political rhetoric online and south of the border. People of influence are telling the bigots that they can get away with it. They're getting a free pass. That's what happens when the Florida Panthers pander to the bigotry of the Stahl brothers, or when major brands roll back even the most basic pride marketing to appear as far-right political factions. When they do that, they validate even more extreme voices. We are not immune to versions of this here in our community. Borderland Pride has made a point of putting drag at the center of our lineup this year because of some of the things that have happened here. And what I want to share with you today is that one of the reasons the drag is not returning to the Bass tournament is because a sponsor threatened to pull their support if they allowed members of the drag community back on their stage. That has been confirmed to us by multiple sources, and no explanation has been given, at least none that I'm going to dignify on this stage. But when we are met with that negativity, we need to respond with something positive, and we have set out to support the drag community, but also to demystify and normalize drag for those who are unacquainted with it and for whom they may not understand what it is meant to represent or why it's important. That's why we have 3 drag events this year, and why we are using our drag show to raise money for the Fort Frances Splash Park. It's also why our drag show tomorrow, our Storytime event right here at the museum, is free for anyone to attend with their family to see what drag is all about, see what the rage is, see why children are so enthralled with the positive message of drag. That is the type of hard work that is required of our community and its allies to confront hatred and political attack. And my challenge to all of you as you leave this place is that you think about how you or your organization or your business could better support queer and trans people and get comfortable being assertive about it. Be more vigilant, unrelenting, and strong in your advocacy. Vote for people who support our community, and vote with your wallets and refuse to support those who wish to harm the ones you love. Give a dose of tough love to those in your families or workplaces who start spewing nonsense about 2S LGBTQIA+ people. And most of all, ensure that the spaces that we ourselves are providing are safe for one another. I want to be clear that when we started our journey of Pride many years ago, in 2017, there was a big focus on education and meeting people where they are at. What I want to tell you is that today it's 2023, and the people who hate us don't need education. They don't want education. What they need is to be exposed and to face consequences for the hateful views that they're espousing. And that is what this Pride organization is going to continue to do. I realize that this rendition of Pride doesn't sound so happy. But the reality is that love isn't enough right now. Pride needs people to fight for it. Pride needs you every single day. We need more than fair weather allies and rainbow-washed corporate logos. That is why the theme of this year's Pride is Pride Awakens. We want to respond to this difficult moment for the 2S LGBTQIA+ community and awaken your determination to build a more inclusive and safe place for queer and trans people. We want to awaken stronger allies and confidence to self-actualize for queer and trans community members. We want to awaken and focus your rightful anger so that we can send the strong message that the communities we live in, that we work in, are for everyone, and that we will accept no less. What I want to leave you with is that you can start this work tonight. You can come to our drag show at the Memorial Sports Center and be part of our movement to build acceptance and a splash park for this community. Doors open for general admission at 7. Tickets are available at the door if you don't already have one. This event is for everyone. It is all ages. Everyone can be there and support the drag community while doing something good for our community to respond positively to something that's negative locally, but also globally around us.